What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another rookie profile video brought to you guys by Campus2Canton.com. I am your host, Matthew Bruning. You can find me at SportsFanaticMB on Twitter. Today, we are going to be talking about one of my favorite quarterbacks in this class, but a very controversial one in Sam Howell, quarterback out of North Carolina, a guy who came in as a freshman. Nobody expected him to start, had a really great year, and then kind of seemed to never really take that next step forward, had a good sophomore year, and then really struggled this past year in his junior season. That has led him to some believing he won't be more than a second-round pick, where at times in the past couple years he was considered a first-round draft pick. I am excited to jump in here today. We're going to dive into some of his stats. We're going to look at some of the not highlights, but video of what he does well and what I think he could improve on. But before we get to that, everybody, guys, could you hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you know when any of these videos go live. Have you done it yet? Did you do it? Please. It would mean a lot to us. We're really trying to grow our YouTube channel. We're putting out a ton of content on here, from Felix's What Does This Mean? You got Chris Moxley's Filtered Daily College Show. We're putting out rookie profiles, freshman profiles, mock draft shows, everything on top of all of our live shows with the Fantasy Football Roundtable and the Devy debate every single week. Got a ton of content, every aspect of the football game covered for you here. We have new shows on the way. Hit that subscribe button. It would mean a ton to us. So, with all that being said, let's jump in and let's discuss Sam Howell's stats from 2021 and realistically all of his college career. All right, so as you guys can see here, here are his 2021 stats, just his 2021 stats alone. And before we dive into that, I do want to talk with you guys a little bit about just who Sam Howell is as a player. He was a two-sport athlete in high school. He played baseball at an all-state level, which I will bring up here in a bit for why I think that matters for like some of his mechanics and everything. He was also a football star at Sun Valley High School. He's at the North Carolina record for total yards with 17,036. That came from 13,145 passing yards with 145 touchdowns to 41 interceptions. So 145 to 41 touchdown to interception ratio. He also added 3,621 rushing yards with 60 rushing touchdowns. That alone, 3,621 rushing yards and 60 rushing touchdowns is good for like most high school running backs, like for, well, probably a couple years, but still, great year rushing-wise for him. He did account for over 200 touchdowns in high school. He was committed to Florida State, had 32 other offers, but then ends up going to North Carolina, staying home. And like I mentioned earlier, nobody thought that he was going to start as a true freshman, and he has literally played in every single game the past 3 seasons except for one game, and that came against Wofford earlier this year on November 20th. So, his 2021 stats, you can see right here kind of what everything was based on and ranking him in this current season in college. Completion percentage at 61.5, passing touchdowns 24, big time throws. What that means is throws that get you it nets you a big game or comes from in a crucial part of the game, or like a big third down conversion, big touchdown play. 22 of those, 5.9% of his throws, turnover-worthy plays. I feel like that kind of explains itself, but for those of you who may not know, it's pretty much like a play that should have been a turnover, whether it was like a play where he fumbled it but got it back, threw it, defender dropped an interception, went through their hands, anything like that. 8.11.7 adjusted completion percentage. Adjusted completion percentage, they factor in balls that wide receivers should have caught that they dropped, which, does also affect the quarterback. The wide receivers get dinged for it as well with their drops, but it does affect completion percentage for a quarterback. So if you take all those out, every ball they should have caught should have been 72.4. Time to throw, that is how much time he has been allowed in the pocket, 2.97 seconds, 30th in college football. And then QBR here, 76.1. QBR and EPA, for those of you who don't know, from what I'm told by my stats friends, those two are like the most predictive predictive when it comes to predicting NFL success for quarterbacks. 76.1, which was third out of this class, and 194 in EPA, which is expected projected points, I believe, 194. We'll dive into those two a little bit more and how he matches up with his class and other classes later. I think that part is going to be big as well. And like I said, we'll dive into those in a minute. So let's take a look at what he did in the pocket. In 2021, he was sacked 49 times. That was the second most in all of college. Why does that matter? I do think it matters when players take a lot of big sacks. Moving myself out of the way there. But some of that, I think, was because of his offensive line. He lost some offensive linemen, and he lost a lot of his offense to the NFL this past season. While in a clean pocket, he was sacked just one time, just once. He completed 183 out of 276 attempts for 66.3%, 2,490 passing yards with a 16-5 touchdown to interception ratio, 11 yards ADOT, meaning like he was... Average of his throws was for 11 yards. Pretty good. Adjusted completion of 74.2. However, these next two are the ones that matter, right? We want to see how these guys do when under pressure and when blitzed. Under pressure, this is when Sam Howell really kind of struggled. 31.8% of his pressures turned into sacks. 48 sacks in pressures alone. That is big. I mean, realistically, that is all of his sacks came when under pressure, except for the one in a clean pocket, which you would probably expect, right? I do think it's interesting. He was never, sorry. I messed that up. But anyways, yeah. In 2 sacks was the 48 of them. 33 completed 38 to 75 for 44%, 561 passing yards, 8 and 4 on the touchdown to interception ratio, but did complete for 15, average of 15 yards on the ADOT. That's interesting. We're going to see some of that later with the way he can get out of the pocket. Adjusted completion percentage was 64.4, and then when blitz sacked 23. My God, guys, I can't talk. Sacked 23 times. Oof. Completed 57 of 98 for 58.2%, 924, 12-2, which I do think is good. That shows a little bit of him getting the ball out quickly, throwing into the blitz, which he did do a fair amount of times, recognizing the blitz and adjusted percentage of 68.5%. So right there, I mean, you can clearly see how much better he was in a clean pocket compared to under pressure and being sacked. And I do think being blitzed. And I do think that shows a little bit of good for him on the winning being blitz part. You want to see quarterbacks have at least decent numbers there because that means that they're recognizing they're being blitzed and they do something about it. And I feel like that shows that a little bit here. That was one of my biggest things actually when I looked in last year's class. Was a difference between a couple of the quarterbacks like Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, how they kind of matched up in these categories. And I will be honest, Zach Wilson, a quarterback that was not very high on, came out fairly well in some of these categories. All right, so let's look at what Sam Howell did in deep passing. He was 101st in completion percentage. This is anything over 20-plus yards. With a 32.4 completion percentage, had 10 touchdowns. Again, big-time throws, which we talked about earlier. 19 of his passes came with that. 23.8% of his passes were big-time throws in this area. And then 4 turnover-worthy plays, 5%. His ADOT was 33.1. So when you look at this at times, and this is where I do think Sam Howell is very good at throwing the deep ball. A lot of these guys, when you go and you look at, again, all these stats are courtesy of PFF.com. If you go look at ADOT for quarterbacks when they're passing over 20 yards, a lot of times you'll see like 21.4 or 23.2. Like, it's not much past that 20 yards. Sam Howell's is 33.1, so he was throwing 33 yards. Like, that's pretty cool, in my opinion. It shows how much he was willing to take those deep shots. An adjusted completion percentage of 38%. Now, let's see how he matches up with the rest of his class. I will, again, move myself out of the way here. So you'll see there's a little bit of, good and bad, right? With his rankings here right above me. In this section, you can see kind of his overall ranking on everything he did in college. This is his complete stats, everything he did in college. And then how it ranks up with the rest of the class. 6th in completion percentage, 3rd in passing yards, which is 10,244, which is really good, especially because he only played 3 years. Like the 2 guys ahead of him one of which Desmond Ridder played all 4 seasons. So, and he only had him beat by a little bit. So it's very cool, in my opinion, to see Sam Howell pass for so many yards in just 3 seasons. A 9.1 YPA, 92 to 23 touchdown to interception ratio. That was the best in this class. Best in big-time throws with 85. 9th in turnover-worthy plays in 39. Not great, obviously. That's toward the back end. First, though, in ADOT with 11.4, which you may think, oh, really? Like, with the way Willis throws it down the field? Yeah, really. Sam Howell, very good deep ball thrower. 74.7 adjusted completion percentage, 2.83 seconds overall in his career to throw the ball. That was that was 9th. QBR at a 75.9, and then EPA 603. And so with the EPA, you may look at it and say 603. Holy shit, that's like an amazing season. I combined all seasons that they played. So again, the fact that he came in second at 603 with how long some of these other guys has played, I do think speaks volumes to what Sam Howell can do as a quarterback. He is very good. Very, very good quarterback. Let's take a look now, as I mentioned earlier, about those advanced stats. So here is his adjusted QBR. As I mentioned earlier, it's one of the more predictive ones here. I apologize. It may be a little bit hard to see these graphs at times with the way some of the colors come in there. Kenny Pickett, very, very kind of like yellowish. But Sam Howell, as you can see, in his first 2 seasons, he was the only one of this class to start as a freshman. The only one to start as a freshman. Then he has his sophomore stats as well, where a lot of those guys got their first starts. And Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, and Desmond Ridder. And look at all 3 of those guys. Pickett, Ridder, we know, right? Like we've talked about. Those 2, a lot of people have talked about. Those 2 really didn't start blowing up until later in their career. Matt Corral, Carson Strong way down there at the bottom as well. Matt Corral was splitting time with a player with I don't remember. I think it may have been John Reese Plumlee, if I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head now, who ended up moving on from Ole Miss in the transfer portal this year. Then you go to his junior season. That is when Matt Corral blew up. That was last season before coming into this year and also having a really good year. Caleb Ellaby, Jack Cohn were the only 2 up there. And then if you go over one more category into the 4 and 5, you'll see that Dustin Crum did jump him in Dustin Crum's 4th season, not his 5th because he did play 5 seasons. Matt Corral, again, this past year in 2021, also had, another better QBR than him, as did Malik Willis, just barely. Let's look at their EPA. If you look at their EPA, this does factor in rushing as well. So I do think you've got to take that into account that the rushing matters here. Sam Howell, again, really great. Top 2 seasons. Then that 3rd junior season where he lost a lot of players on his team comes in here below Ellaby, Matt Corral, and Jack Cohn. You got Malik Willis and Desmond Ridder, who further on down the line came in, and then Kenny Pickett in his final year also beat him out. So overall, I think Howell, if you take his sophomore season, which I think many would say was his best, right? That was a freshman season, not expected to start, plays really well, comes in over the regression line. And what the regression line is, and it's kind of hard to see, unfortunately, here, it's right at the back end mixing it. It's the average top 12 NFL season, meaning anybody who's been over that line has given you like a top 12 season at some point in the NFL. And Howell did it twice and really did it well in his sophomore season, coming up way above here. And then again, just that junior season, he really kind of dropped down. So how does he match up with the 2021 class? Not great, Bob. Not great. You see here Trevor Lawrence, who also started as a freshman, blew him out of the water. Justin Fields' first year at Ohio State with Trevor Lawrence, again, same thing. And then last year, the 3rd year for most of those guys, except for Davis Mills. I mean, and even Davis Mills beat him out. So that junior year is really kind of the concerning one. So it comes in, how much do we want to put in, his season and losing all the players that he lost? Is that losing Javonte, losing De'Ami Brown, Daz Newsome, Michael Carter, offensive lineman? Like, does that give him some sort of pass? I think you'd still want him to come in over, again, right there you can see an average of QBs with a top 12 NFL season. You would like to see him come in over that line, and he didn't. And that does have to be, I think, a little bit concerning. You go to the EPA for all of these guys as well. And again, you see it right there. He did really good in those first 2 seasons. Actually beat out Trevor Lawrence in the second season in EPA. Justin Fields the only one above him. Then in that last season, you see him dip below that line. Last but not least, I like to go back one more class. I like to go and look at 3 different classes. So let's look at the 2021 class where you had Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Tua Tagovailoa, and Joe Burrow, kind of the standouts of that class. Right there with Herbert. And, Herbert was a guy that I was really high on coming out of Oregon, and a lot of people didn't like that he went back to school. You can see here 2 really great seasons as a freshman and a sophomore for Justin Herbert with QBR, and then kind of fell off that junior and senior season. But he produced fairly well in those 2 years. And then again, all the way down at the bottom, Tua, had that amazing season with Alabama. And then I just love look at the end of that graph here right above my head, Joe Burrow, which is like an amazing season, that great LSU year. And then looking at the EPA really quick as well. Same thing. Best out of everybody, right? Best out of this class as a freshman. Comes in behind Tua and Justin Herbert, those a sophomore. And then that third year, Tua just astronomically better than everybody. Joe Burrow still was not starting it until his 4th season. So that is kind of how he matches up in the advanced stats. Let's take a look now at the video. Let's look at what I like and don't like about his game. And we're going to start it off with... Here we go. So I'm going to keep myself up here at the top of the screen. And so hopefully I'm out of the way. As you can see here on a 3rd and 7 play. Now, if you watch this play, the one thing I like about Sam Howell, he does have good mechanics, and that's a great throw. I know it's kind of hard to see the sun. The wide receiver actually dropped it. That was a good throw. It literally dropped back shoulder right, led the wide receiver just enough that was only the wide receiver was going to catch that, and he just dropped it. It kind of sucked that happened because I think he is, it was a really great throw there, but he ended up dropping it still. I think that shouldn't count against Sam Howell. Look right here on this play, and this is where these deep passes, I just like now understand wide receivers got good separation right there, so we're good to go. That most quarterbacks are going to make that throw, but I still think it matters. Great throw, leads him. There are times that you see wide receivers, we just did, quarterbacks. I just did Desmond Ridder one that's on the channel, and you'll look at one video where Alec Pierce is wide open down the field. He has yards of separation, and Desmond Ridder throws it behind him. He had to adjust back, catch it, doesn't get the touchdown. The only reason that's not a touchdown is because the wide receiver couldn't make it into the end zone because Sam Howell led him perfectly. All right, right here. Again, just another great deep ball. This here, not as much separation, but still enough. Any good quarterback going to make that pass, I agree, but still a really good throw. Again, just continues to show you what a good passer he is down the field. All right, so here we've got some all-22 from Virginia Tech here, and I believe this is one of the quick passes, and this is one of those things where I really like Hal, and I think he's got really good short to intermediate arm strength. And he can put enough zip on the ball in the short areas. I don't know that he has like that deep ball arm strength like Malik Willis does, but like right here, very good mechanics, really solid in everything that he does. Hits his wide receiver quick. It's a first down. It's a great play right there. I really like it. So, whoops, I didn't mean to put that play up there on the screen, so apologize about that. Again, same thing. Really quick out of his hand. Really quick. That's part of the offense that they run. He does a lot of plays in shotgun, which I don't necessarily like, but we'll see. This is one thing right there that I wish we could see more of. Go back to this here. So we see everybody's covered, right? And he's got the defender coming in on him. We're going to show you some of the bad of Sam Howell here in a minute. I wish he did this here more often. Get rid of the ball. Just throw it out of bounds. You don't have to do more than is asked of you at times to make a big play, and that is one of the issues I have with him, which we'll see later. I wish he would throw it out of bounds more. Here, again, another really good, just quick pass. Wide receiver should have caught that, in my opinion. Like, that's a nice throw, should have caught that pass, and then he turns around, literally the next play, right back to him, ends up being a touchdown, right? Nice zip, puts it into his wide receiver. Good, great. I love this reverse angle from it here. Don't love that he pats the ball a lot as well, as you just saw right there, but right here, it doesn't really matter. All right, with this one, again, just showing you this short to intermediate zip. I do think he's got enough zip on his ball that it matters in the short and intermediate areas. Really quick, out to his wide receiver. Nice first down. Here you got a 2nd and 10 here for Sam Howell and the North Carolina Tar Heels. And again, just same thing, right? Like, it feels like we just saw this play earlier, and it's a completely different play. That is where I really think he strives, and recognizing that and hitting his wide receivers quickly in stride, just getting the ball out. I do like that as well. He's checked off, or he's looking off over here, so you can see he does somewhat go through his progressions on that as well with that camera angle. Really good play there. My goodness, I need to stop doing that. All right. So, next up, let's see what play this is. Is this the good one? This one I think just, again, continues to illustrate a little bit of the zip that he can put on his passes. He gets it to the outside with the defender all over his wide receiver, right? Almost on that opposite hash. I mean, he's in the middle of the field, but still gets it all the way over there to the sideline to his wide receiver. Again, really good arm strength in the short to intermediate area. Here's where I'm talking about, like, scrambling around. Great job right there. Big first downs. 3rd and 18 right here, right? So 3rd and 18 against Boston College. You're thinking, there ain't no way, right? Like, just get what you can. We'll end up punting the ball. No. Gets a little bit of time. Great pickup on the block there by Michael Carter. And then, because this is from last year, 2020 season, ends up scrambling outside the pocket, getting a big first down. He can use his legs. He, can extend plays in the pocket. He is an above-average athlete. You saw my grade there a minute ago. It wasn't supposed to be on there. We ain't editing that out. You'll see that he grades fairly well with that for me. And again, right here, just to show off his rushing a little bit, I've got a couple plays in here with him just really good with his legs. Like, he's not afraid to take off. He's thick as well. Like, a lot of people compare him to, like, a Baker Mayfield. I think he's thicker and faster than Baker. I think this can work at the NFL level. He sees there's nothing there, just takes off. Man, look at that. It's great. Just eats up a lot of yards, gets himself a big first down, big play for North Carolina. Watch it again here from the reverse angle before we look at some of the things I don't like about Sam Howell. All right, so looking at some of the negatives here, and you're looking at the left screen, obviously that's a bad throw. That should have been picked. And now I get that he has the defenders coming in on him, right? And I understand, I apologize, you got the dual box screen on this thing here, but if you watch right here, so clearly both of the ends here have beaten their offensive linemen. This is one of those situations where I kind of think, all right, either you're going to pass the ball to your wide receiver, who you can see right there is about to make his break in. Either you throw it with anticipation is one thing I do think he's somewhat improved on, but is still not great at. Throw it, see if you can get it to your receiver, or throw it out of bounds at this point. Like, don't hold on to the ball, and then he's not really able to step up. He tries to fire it late. Wide receiver is sitting right there. That should have been an interception right there. And that's where I kind of think he tries too hard sometimes to make these big plays, and it ends up costing him. So, I want to go back for a second. It might be a little bit hard to see from this angle here, but watch this. This is one of the things I don't like. Pat, moving around, throws, misses his receiver, right? This is actually the tight end. Like, he's open. You've got to make that pass. That's not a pass that you should miss. It really isn't. You should easily be able to complete this pass. Patting the ball, doesn't know what to do, then just tries to dump it over, throws it up too high. You've got to complete that pass. You've got to. That is big. All right, for here, one of these things I don't like about Howell, again, right there, probably could have thrown that earlier. And if you watch this on the reverse side, I will say that I asked Jared Wackerly at Dynasty Nerds about this. I don't love it. I feel a little, I just don't like the way he does it. But Jared said he doesn't think it's a huge issue for Howell in the grand scheme of things. He's not as big a fan of Sam Howell. But he bounces a lot in the pocket. Like, he is constantly just kind of bouncing. I feel like if he wasn't bouncing enough, he would have been able to set better because he's aiming himself right here. So if you look at him, he's aiming himself back the way that the tight end is running across the field. You want to, almost like a baseball thing. This is where I feel like his mechanics are decent as a baseball player, but they teach you as a baseball player. Now, you see it with Patrick Mahomes. You see it with these other guys. Drew Aller is going to be a big one coming out as a freshman for Penn State. You want to line up your feet with where you want to throw. And if you watch this here with Howell, like, he's lined up going the other way, and then he's kind of doing this. I don't love that. I think that's why it ends up being an incompletion there to his tight end. He does that a lot. You'll see it again here. Bouncing. Then a bad throw. This is just a throw he shouldn't have made in general. He's got a safety over there. Why you even try this, I have no idea. He's falling backwards, throws it. bad decision-making on Howell's part there. And then same thing right here. Again, I think it's a lot of it is he has good mechanics, but I think he bounces around in the pocket a little bit too much for my liking. I think it kind of ends up hurting him. I'm sorry, I have to keep moving myself all over this screen to kind of make this work. But, like, so watch this right here. Like, bouncing. The defender is right there with the wide receiver. You've got to know you can't make this throw. And it's, I mean, just right to him. That's an easy interception. You can't make that throw. You just can't. All right, here I think is another bad interception here. Yeah, rolls out, and so, like, at this point, if you look, and granted, he's looking the other way, so it's easy for me right now to say, hey, look, like, you've got a wide receiver wide open. He's looking the other way. He's about to see the defenders coming in on him. Panics, just tries to get away from it. I think at this point, you've just got to go down or get rid of the ball. He then tries to throw it to the wide receiver who was open and throws it right to the defender for an interception. Now, you couldn't see it right here. This ended the game. They were down 6 points to Virginia Tech right here. There was only like 20 seconds on the clock. But still, we've seen in college, a first down stops the clock. This ended the game for North Carolina. They were in Blacksburg. It was a massive game. It was like week 1 or week 2 of the season. And Howell cost them, in my opinion, the game by throwing that interception. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that. And that is something that I really don't like about Howell's game at time. Like, I get it. You're out of the pocket. But, like, right here, you see the defenders on you. And at this point, his head's turned. He can see that wide receiver. Throw it now or just get rid of it because you know you can't take the sack either. Instead, he tries too much, sitting there, then just kind of throws it wildly, ends up getting interception, end of ball game, North Carolina loses. Here's another one. Now, we'll say on this one, the defender comes on his blind side, so I don't want to, say too much like this is all 100% on Howell, but I think you've got to get rid of it quicker. Sometimes he doesn't. He takes a little bit too long, drifts a little bit in the pocket, I think, as well. That ends up costing him. Here's another one, just bouncing. And, again, sometimes you just got to live to fight another day. You're winning 21-16, third quarter, 3rd and 3, 12 minutes left on the clock. I know you want to do everything. He is a gamer. Sam Howell wants to do everything he can to win on every single play. But keep doing this, boom, fumble, ball's knocked out. Now, they get lucky because Javonte Williams jumps on it, and it only ends up being like a 4th and 30. But still, if Boston College gets that ball, now they're all of a sudden in field goal range and driving to possibly score. Like, at this point, you just go down. Just stop fighting for it. Like, that right there happens way too much for me. More than I want it to happen for Sam Howell. All right. Next up, you have got Sam Howell, again, right here, just tries to do too much, ends up getting a sack. Not really an end-all, be-all really big, and like, it's not a massive negative right here compared to some of the other ones we've showed, but just a little bit of like, hey, like, sometimes, man, you just stop trying to do so much. That's my biggest thing with Howell. Here's some of these things with the bouncing, and so I'm going to rewind this just a little bit and pause it. I just want you to watch this, and you guys can come to your own conclusion here. I just want to show you this because, again, it's a concern for me. But Jared Wackerly's played college quarterback, much smarter than me when it comes to stuff. He says he doesn't think it's a big deal, so you should probably take his word on it. But I don't love the way he just bounces. I mean, like, he never really gives himself a chance to set his feet at times. There's a lot of times that he's just bouncing around back there. And you see that with some quarterbacks, but in my opinion, not nearly as much as you do with him. That's the same play, so I apologize about that, guys. But yeah, it's a little bit more than I'd like to see with Sam Howell. So here we go again, another big loss. I think this right here just kind of, this whole thing, we'll rewind it and go back to this. I'm about to show you guys 2 plays, and I feel like this completely encapsulates what Sam Howell is as a quarterback. It's one of the reasons why we love him, and a lot of people don't love him. Watch this play. 1st and 15, right? Probably at this point, you can't take another sack. It's 14-13. Almost end of the second quarter. You're about to go into halftime. Takes the big sack. Now, I do like that he didn't try to do too much. He just sits there. It's like, all right, well, yep, I'm probably going to get sacked. Just tucks the ball in, holds on. Good. Literally right next, the next play. Watch this play. This is why you love Sam Howell. Gets time, avoids the rush, gets out of the pocket, waiting. Boom. Right there, Javonte Williams, touchdown. Granted, Javonte Williams did a whole lot after that play, but Sam Howell made that play happen by finding time, getting out of the pocket, using his legs, and then instead of just running, waits, throws the ball to Javonte Williams, and Javonte Williams does the rest. I mean, just really great job there by Howell. What he does great. So let's take a look at his grade. What do I think about Sam Howell? He comes in here at a 76 for me. I kind of redid my rankings a little bit in my scoring system after talking to some people. So I was trying to get a better way of doing it because I don't want to go above 100. If you watch my video with Desmond Ridder, I had him at like 101 because I was grading up to, the highest you could get was 105. I kind of calculated it a little bit different and talking to some of my stats friends in ways that I could get it to stay within a 100 grade scale. They helped me with that. I was able to come down to one that keeps you within 100. So Desmond Ridder, and I will again put these out on Twitter as I get further into my grades. Desmond Ridder actually came in at a 71. How comes in at a 76 here? I'm going to kind of like just minimize myself down here in the bottom of the screen. Arm at a 3.8. This is all out of 5. And as you can see here, arm, pocket, legs, head. There's 4 categories that I like to kind of grade quarterbacks on. Those are the 4. 4.0 in accuracy, because I do think he's a very accurate passer, but arm strength 3.7. I think, again, really good in the short and intermediate areas. He can hit deep balls, but I don't think he's got like a cannon to throw deep. Comes out as a 3.8. Manipulation and poise in the pocket. Manipulation, I think that kind of, like, for me, he tries too much at times. I think he'd be much better at it if at times he just decided to run, throw the ball away. Poise, same thing. That poise, the way he drifts in the pocket sometimes, I think he bounces a lot. Still a 3.8 with everything he can do, comes in as a 3.6. His legs, mechanics, I think that's what I talked about earlier, the baseball background. I do think he has good mechanics, especially when it comes to passing the ball. 3.9, mobility at 4.1. He's not given enough credit, I think, with what he can do with his legs. 800 rushing yards this year, I mean, was, just below Malik Willis in this class. To speak to, we talk about Malik Willis and how great of a runner he is. Sam Howell was right there with him. And then I started doing ahead. And how I did this, progressions, watching players go through progressions on film. I only had a couple on there for Sam Howell that I showed, but he does do a good job of that. Decision-making, I gave him a 3.8, a little bit above what I consider an average. And that's just, because at times he does make bad decisions. I don't love the decisions he makes. That came out as a 3.8. So 76 overall grade for me. That's like a middle tier 2 quarterback grade. My top is 85. So 100 to 85 is tier 1 for me. 84 to 70 is tier 2, and then 70 to 60 is tier 3. I'm sorry, 69 to 58 is tier 3, and anything above that is tier 4. So he's like a middling tier 2 for me, and I think he can go above that. I don't think he's ever going to be a tier 1 quarterback, and I don't know that he ever really brings you fantasy 1 quarterback stuff. The rushing would be big for that, but decision-making and just kind of the way he runs the offense sometimes, I don't know that I'll ever be there, but I would not be surprised, depending on where Sam Howell is drafted, if he doesn't end up getting, right around the 15 to 20 range every single season. Like, I could realistically see that for Sam Howell. So that is my grade for him. 76 overall, mid-tier 2 for Sam Howell. Again, guys, please subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon, it would mean a lot. Like the video, comment. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree with my opinion on Sam Howell? Should he be graded higher? Should he be graded lower? Again, a tier 2 for me. Right now, he is QB 3 for me on all the quarterbacks that I've graded. I will continue to put these videos out. Came in above Desmond Ridder, as you know. I'm actually going to do the 2 quarterbacks who have come in higher than him next. Those will be my next 2 videos, so look out for those. And you guys can follow me at SportsFanaticMB on Twitter. Make sure to check out the website. That's where all those graphs came from. We've got a ton of other stuff coming. A whole bunch of stuff coming this offseason that we've been working on. $2.99 a month or a $29.99 yearly subscription would be kind of like how much the website costs. I'm sorry, flustered. I just saw a message and it messed my thinking up. $29.99 a year or $2.99 a month to get a subscription to the website. I'm telling you guys, if you guys have any interest in it at all, we do a lot of college stuff and transition to the NFL. Do it now. So we've got some things in the works coming very, very soon. I cannot wait to talk with you guys about. But thank you guys so much for checking out the Sam Howell rookie video. Enjoy yourselves. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you guys again soon.